news, the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly is underway in New York City. With the climate crisis on top of the agenda, the UN Secretary General is putting pressure on world leaders to ratchet up efforts to fight climate change. On Monday, Secretary General Antonio Guterres and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson hosted a closed-door session with around 40 world leaders, where they pushed nations to make deeper cuts of greenhouse gas emissions. The commitments made by countries until now have the world on a path toward an increase of 16% in emissions and a 2.7 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. Guterres warned that time is rapidly running out to turn those figures around.
I'm not desperate, but I'm tremendously worried. Because as the scientific community has told us, we need to make sure that temperatures do not rise more than 1.5 degrees. Now, we had the day before yesterday a report by the UN organization that deals with the Convention on Climate Change, and that report shows that based on the commitments made by member states until now, the so-called national determined contributions that they present, we would be running to an increase of temperature of 2.7 degrees, and that is catastrophic. The world could not live with a 2.7 degrees increase in temperature. We are on the verge of the abyss, and we cannot afford a step in the wrong direction. And COP26 must be a step in the right direction.
Besides strengthening emission-cutting pledges, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is also pushing for richer nations to increase funding for poorer countries to develop cleaner energy and adapt to the worsening impacts of climate change. Denmark's Prime Minister METTE Frederiksen says her country is ready to contribute more than 1% of the $100 billion a year in climate aid called for in the Paris Agreement.
We have already decided in Denmark to higher our ambitions when it comes to global financing on climate change. And I think it is necessary that the countries who are rich and have the possibilities accept to do more. It is easier for a country like the US and for Denmark to reach the goals when it comes to the Paris Agreement, and it's almost impossible for the poorest and most vulnerable countries unless the rest of the world, the richest countries, do more. So we need to use our aid more directly on climate change, and we need to be more responsible. And that's what I try to underline, and I also try to lead by example. When Denmark